Hey there, comic book fans. I felt like doing a review today, so I went over to my pile of battered old comic books that are almost too busted up to look through and pulled one out. Someone actually gave this to me a couple years ago. I don't think you can see it's got a chewed up cover, chewed up insides, pretty battered comic overall, but it was still pretty readable. And this is one Conan issue number 17 from, what is this, 1972, I think it said it was from. 72. And I think I'd read this in a reprint years ago, but I'd never read the original issue until just today. As it's been sitting around for a while, but I was in no rush to get to it. And this is one of the early Conans that's not by Barry Smith. Here we get Roy Thomas, Gil Kane, and Ralph Reese is the inker. And I point out Ralph Reese to you because he's really the difference maker in this comic for me. In case you don't know who Ralph Reese is, he started his career in the 60s as a teenager, an assistant to Wally Wood. In the 70s, he worked in Continuity Studios, which was Neil Adams' studio in the 70s. And I think in the 90s, he did a lot of work for Valiant, which I'm not familiar with his Valiant work at all, but I know him from his 70s work mostly because I have a couple of friends who are big Ralph Reese fans. And otherwise, he's not particularly well known. He had, I pulled these, this is when I first heard of him in the mid-80s, really, with these Reese's Pieces. Eclipse Comics collected a couple issues of his 70s work that he did here and there and printed them. I haven't read these in decades, so I'll have to do a review of them one day. But meanwhile, back to Conan. Nice Gil Kane splash, but you can see Ralph Reese is an inker who's very illustrative. He does these, you can look at his very fine line work. Look at that face there. I mean, just look at that eye socket he really brings out. So that's what Ralph Reese is bringing to the table in these issues, is this very, very fine line work over Gil Kane's really masterful. I mean, Gil Kane can draw. Look at that line work in that Conan figure. Very fine lines, lots of hatching going on. But like I said, this is what I think this fits in pretty well with the Barry Smith early Conans, which once again I've only read those in collected editions too. Let's look at the once again this is a beautiful panel right here. Whoops, right down there where you can see really fine line work in Conan tied to the post and the veneer. This is the story's pretty good too. It starts out in the middle of a battle on a ship, which Conan quickly loses because he gets bonked in the back of the head. And then Conan actually turns out knows this guy, or knows someone who knows him. He's a veneer who were enemies of the Sumerians. So Conan's just pissed at him, even though this guy's trying to give Conan a chance to live and help them save the ship in the storm. Conan's like, I'd rather die than help you, because, you know, Conan's a hot-headed nut. And then, of course, they fall into the white mist, and again, look at nice Conan face right there. You can see the the nice Gil Kane drawing and the nice fine lines by Ralph Reese. Conan fights a shark, because everybody should fight a shark. And they wind up in on this deserted beach. And of course Conan still wants to kill. The guy's like, I don't want to fight you. Well, there's two of us left alive on this island. I don't want to fight you. But Conan's like, we're going to fight. So they, of course, now get into a fight. that only ends when this guy, they're at a stalemate. Neither is better than the other. And finally this guy like puts down his weapon. It's like, if you want to, I don't want to fight you. The battle has ended. We're not winning. So Conan's finally like, all right. That's what a hothead Conan was in these early days. The guy didn't even want to fight him. He got no beef with him. But Conan wanted to kill him just because of his tribe. And of course, being a Conan book, a damsel in distress shows up out of nowhere. Once again, look at the great Gil Kane pencils and that fine line work by Ralph Reese. Excellent stuff. I mean, there's a classic Gil Kane pose of that woman just kind of crouching on the ground. Gil Kane was just a master of figure drawing. I didn't like when he started inking himself in the 80s, Gil Kane that is, I kind of lost interest in a lot of his work because he started inking himself with a marker, a Pentel sign pen, which, was faster for him, but I didn't like the line from it. Once again, a great face there. Kane and Ralph Reese. Ralph Reese really, just look at that guy's face right there, dude. A lot of that fine line work is just really nice. Our story continues as the story turns out the woman may have been a damsel in distress, but she's a queen who once again, look at that. Ralph Reese is really adding a lot to these faces. I mean, Gil Kane can of course draw faces, but the fine line illustrative technique of finishing them is all Ralph Reese. Of course, they go back and try to win her king. Once again, another great face right there. Just you didn't get that kind of fine line and detail, especially in 1972. I would have to say that it's interesting too. But let me bring you back to the beginning of the story. I had fun reading this because of that 1970s style, where see all these captions here. They're all third-party narration, which you just don't get anymore. They've kind of moved all the thought balloons into the narration, into the caption boxes, and you don't have a narrator anymore like you a third. This is all third party. But the giant veneer cannot hear. He is already gone. In the instant, with a deafening roar, the ship strikes the sunken reef once more. The mighty crash which snaps the mast and shivers her prow like glass. Shatters. Pardon me. No, that is shivers. Shivers her prow like grass. Shouldn't it be shatters? Oh well. But anyway, you don't get that. That kind of writing doesn't exist anymore, and I kind of find it refreshing to read because everything is first-party narration. These days, every single. Whenever you see a caption box, for the last 20 years, it's first-party narration, and it's just like, stop it already. So it's actually refreshing to read something that's old because it's not in the same old style that's been going around for 20 years. Let's see how this ends. Here's where we were. The Hyperborean, lots of ads in these old comics. Classic Gil Kane upshot. Nice final battle scene. To me, this wasn't Gil Kane's best storytelling for whatever. There's a lot of small, the sword fights are okay. The story's pretty good. The ending I've seen Gil Kane do better layouts than this, so I'll only have to give Gil Kane's layouts a B in this story, but the rest of it is just, like I said, the art itself is just so nice. The thing in the temple, like this is an issue that doesn't get looked at much because it comes in the middle of the early Barry Smith Conan, which is of course classic, and everybody loves the Barry Smith Conan. So the Gil Kane, Ralph Reese Conan, even this cover is Gil Kane and what's his name? I want to call him Scott Brunner for the old quarterback for the New York Giants, but it's Frank Brunner, right? just a nice, once again, the inking in this is very nice. Like I said, Gil Kane got some, when Gil Kane inked himself, he kind of ruined himself for me in the 80s, but this is some nice inking. We get nice line weight, all sorts of hashing going on here. And this is one of the Marvel 10th anniversary covers. It's a cover in a box. That's the Marvel 10th anniversary. They did this across their whole line for about a year to celebrate their 10th anniversary. And I never see anyone collecting these 10th anniversary covers. I kind of did over the years, whenever, because a lot of them were drawn by Gil Kane, so of course they're good. But I always kind of liked there was a lot of design to the format. It of course became too restricting, I'd imagine. And artists wanted their whole cover back, but I kind of liked a lot of them in the box of this time, and I've collected a bunch of them, but by no means all. But I've seen people collect their 25th anniversary covers, the DC Go-Go Checks covers. I don't think I've seen anyone collect the Marvel 10th anniversary covers, but it's a good one, that one. So there you go. Stan Lee presents Roy Thomas, Gil Kane, Ralph Reese, John Costa. I wonder if that's John Costanza. Adapted from the story by Robert E. Howard, creator of Conan. That's an interesting way that prow cuts off up there. Like I said, good stuff. Story solid. Drawings all good. Layouts pretty good. But like I said, it's the inks, it's the finishes that make this for me. Ralph Reese, you don't see a lot of Ralph Reese stuff out there. I don't think he did a ton of stuff in the 70s, but he did some of it, and this is one of them. I think this is one of his, like I said, I've got a couple of friends who are big Ralph Reese fans, and this is one of their favorite issues. This is why I know it. This is why I know it, and I know him. Like I said, I never had it before a couple of years ago or a year ago, when one of those friends gave it to me. They're like, "Oh, I got a new copy. You want my old battered one?" I was like, "Sure." But there you go. Oh, look. One of my favorites, well, not quite spiral boobs, but concentric circle boobs. Oh, it's not even in focus. Come on, get in focus here. We gotta see her crazy bikini. Oh well, we're not. It refuses to focus on her concentric circle top. But anyway, there's another shot of her concentric circle top. Anyway, good issue. If you're looking for some nice art and a decent Conan story, dig yourself up a copy of Conan number 17.